And I will actually, hopefully during this clinic, I'll start to talk a little bit about techniques, because that's really, I guess we could start talking about that, why not?
Yeah.
There's kind of two ways drummers play, if I were to generalize. There's probably more than two ways, but the basic ways I see, and myself included at one point or another, the drumstick's a hammer and then there's like a nail. You know, it's like you're literally, get in there. And that's how people play, you know. And then there's this other kind of way where it's kind of like, instead of this being a hammer, and this being a nail, this is like a ball. See that? There's a big difference. This. With this approach, it really lightens everything up. So now I'm just bouncing all over the place. I'm barely even holding on. I'm kind of getting the stick out of my hand like this. And if you notice, I really only ever hold it there. And this allows me to play any style of music with ease.
Really loose and efficient.
It's loose, and I can. You ever play a gig and it's really loud and you're playing and you want to all of a sudden do something tasteful, but you feel like you can't because you're going to be either dropping. You feel that tension. Well, this is like a completely tension-free way of playing. Tension is like driving with the brakes on. You know what I mean? If the creative flow within you, when you're playing and you're hearing rhythms and things you want to play, if that's like water through a hose, then tension would be like kinking the hose. You know, there's what I've learned as I've grown older is there's what I'm hearing musically, and then there's how it comes out at the end of the drum set. And you want to have as little friction as possible between your ideas and what comes out. And I noticed for me, a lot of the things that were holding me back as a player were technique based. Not that I needed to practice more ways to do a paradiddle, or not that I needed to practice more ways to turn beats around. Once I improved my playing technique and I was kind of bouncing all over the place, it was like a floodgate of rhythms all of a sudden became available to me. It was like you hit level 32 on the video game and all these magical powers came floating in. I mean, it was kind of like that. When I shifted my technique from this hammering to bouncing, I don't know, I was just able to play more stuff without even having to practice it. Does that make sense?
When you find you really needed that, was that at Berkeley? Or?
No. I mean, this is within Berkeley. I didn't really learn much about it. Technique, the Berkeley approach to drumming technique was just sort of, the technique was what was on display. So, again, technique is literally a tool. It gets you able to play whatever it is you want to play. But the tool isn't what's on display. So if I were to build a new house, right? I build this beautiful new house and I have a party and everybody comes over and all I do is show you the bulldozers. You know what I mean? Like, hello, look at this porch, you know? But no, you're all looking at the bulldozers and the screwdrivers. It's like, that's what, when you put drum technique on display only, that's what that's like to me. So the technique is really just a tool to make it easier.
Was this looser approach more a necessity out of touring?
Well, a necessity from touring and just me being a student of the instrument. And just, again, as you get older, you know, growing up playing rock, the technique isn't built in. I played years like this not knowing, I'm just not aware, because I don't need good technique to play that music. But think about someone who grows up just playing jazz. The technique is built into the music. You can't play that music without learning that. So what you do is, as you get older, you kind of start to borrow the techniques from the other side, you know what I mean, and try to find ways to apply it. And you know, and very specifically, I'm kind of speaking in a general sense, but more specifically, to achieve this, see that? Everything I hit, it really lightens up your hi-hat, you know. And, you know, the normal thing would be, right, or shoulder tip, this, you know, you're taught that. I can't even do it anymore. But for me, it just becomes like a snap. Now you see, I'm not having any problem. I mean, I'm not losing volume. You know, you don't have to be, and I'm only holding it there, literally. Never, not once does the stick go into there, into the palm of my hand. It's literally holding. The other fingers are barely even coming to play. Like I could do a single stroke roll with nothing. By the way, this is the fulcrum. This spot where the stick touches the skin. This is really the most important thing in all of drumming, I think. This. Training this group of muscles, which holds. Because what most people do is they hold with the same muscles that they're using to push. So to develop good technique, you got to separate the hold from the push and put the right muscles in charge. And you kind of got to get a little martial arts on it. And really hone in and refine. So for me, this holds, and then what pushes is the turning of the forearm. The same muscle you use to open a door or shake hands. Believe it or not, it's not really in the wrists. Like the wrists are kind of slow. Everyone thinks drumming's in the wrist. And I guess it looks like that, but if you isolated just the wrist, it's kind of a slow, weak muscle. It's really the turning of the forearm which makes it it's very strong and powerful. See how that's turning? And then this holds on. So it becomes this, just like throwing a ball down. And by the way, I'm opening my hand like I would. See my hand opening? What happens, you know, you can play all day, and I can just use the fulcrum to play. I don't even need, well, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm not even using any of the other fingers. That's just the fulcrum. You can move, and then I might make a fulcrum out of the other fingers, just with no help of the index. That, and then maybe even go with the ring. That's real hard. Learn to move the stick and balance. Balance and control. It's real interesting. If you're trying to develop a certain speed and control, think about what it was like when you rode a bike for the first time. The way you got fast at riding a bike wasn't like putting weights on the bike. It wasn't like a bench press. You didn't put ankle weights on, or you learned to balance, right? And then once you got centered on the bike, there was no limit to how fast you could go. So it's sort of the same thing with this. Speed comes as a byproduct of balance and control, not muscular failure, like they tell you to play on pillows and all this stuff. And I guess some of that's good to develop this. But the more balanced I become with this, and the less adjustments, if you were to take the stick and just bounce it with your fingers like that, you would find that you were wobbling just like you were on the bike the first time. The more I refine this and you eliminate these little adjustments, the faster you will be. So let's say I'm this fast. You know, at that speed, I start to adjust. I start to, you know, choke up or whatever. You know, so what I do when I work on this is I work on balance, and again, I really hone in on control. And I'm not moving any. It sounds like it's an exercise in finger control, but it's not. It's fulcrum control. You want to build static strength in this muscle so that you don't have to hold on anymore from here. You just want to hold on there, and these kind of help. Push here, hold there. So separate. Not.
You had a lot of three-stroke type. Is that would you say that's a country thing? Very snare oriented?
That's kind of a groove I made up.
Okay, that's cool.
That's a Ben Sesar original. I use it in a lot of stuff. So you have kind of like the train beat, you know, this thing. Well, sometimes they want to do, we were in the studio, I've been in the studio with Brad since 2000, 13 years. And so once in a while we'll get something, he'll be like, I don't really want a train beat, but I kind of want that feel, but I want it to rock. So I'm like, all right. And I kind of came up with this kind of a hybrid of a train beat with it takes a lot of discipline to play it. But so the hi-hat's going, so you have that, but it also has the train beat, so it's kind of like this. You know? You know what I mean? You can play it 4 on the floor. You can wash the hat more, you know, kind of. And get a lot of kind of mileage out of it.
That train beat, is that the country beat that they generally kind of go to?
The train beat. It is one, it's, you know, the country genre has a lot of different idioms.
Yeah, how'd you make that transition, and what were you asked to do?
Great question. So he's asking me about how did I become from a rock player to a country player. This is a great lesson for any style of music you want to do. It's like this. This is a deeper thing, but when I first started playing country, I wasn't that good at it. I was playing it intellectually, like I'd heard some country before, and I'm like, oh, okay, these are the grooves, and I guess I can kind of do an impression, like I'm up there doing an impression. But the problem was, like with an impressionist or someone on stage doing impressions, I didn't own the character, and I knew the music intellectually, but I didn't love it as a fan. Actually, I thought most of it was kind of corny when I first started. You know what I mean? So it's hard to be masterful at something that you don't own in here. So I got through the Brad audition. There were no other drummers there. I don't know how. I did get the gig, but I think he liked my rockness because he has that. But I wouldn't have kept the gig probably longer than a few months had I not done some work. We had this old guy who was our steel player. His name was Jim, and this dude was a historian. Like, he knew this style of music, and he'd be like, buddy, you're good, but you don't really know this music. And I lowered my ego enough to go, okay. Because I had the gig, I could have just told him to buzz off. Like, who are you telling me? I got the gig, but I wasn't that way. So there's a little secret on how to become successful. You know, don't think you know it all. You know what I mean? That's a hard thing to do. Be willing to take some criticism. And this guy came over and goes, you're good, but you don't know it. And I'm like, okay. And we would go back and we would have these little listening parties. And it took me a while, and then he played me something. You know, a lot of this old music doesn't even have drums on it. So I'm listening to this stuff, and then something clicked. And what was it? It might have been George Jones or something, you know what I mean? You know, just the soulful music. And all of a sudden, it clicked, and I'm like, I get it. And then I went out on my own. I became a country nut. Not from a drumming standpoint, but from a fan. Just like a fan, like truly. Just like I was with Kiss and Zeppelin and all this stuff, it hit me like that. And I was like, oh, I get it. And I went on my own, and then I discovered the history of the music. You know, again, a lot of those early records didn't have drums on it. But didn't matter, because I loved the music. And then when you love the music, you learn these subtleties. You learn you learn where it came from. So that when I'm up here, I'm not just playing a beat that's written out that says train beat. I'm connected to the music historically because I'm a fan. So I'm just doing a impression, you know, out of like love of the music. You know what I'm saying? So any style of music you want to do is that. Like Tony Williams didn't just wake up and go, I'm going to do jazz, you know? Which is the way they teach jazz, okay? But that music has a soul to it. Tony Williams grew up with it as a fan. And when he got up there, he was just doing his fan impression that you do. You know what I mean? So I really recommend everyone, no matter what you do musically, go back and connect to the whatever got you into music in the first place. You know what I mean? Whatever the first time you heard music and you went, whoa.
And then impression became expression.
It's just natural. Like I'm in a way. So it's another thing. It's kind of like not. I never grew up in my mind when it comes to that. You know, I'm still like a kid when I play. I'm still like, isn't this cool? You know, when I'm playing, I never got too smug or cool about it. I'm not, you know, I play at a high professional level, but I don't walk around like Brad Paisley, you know. I just, you know, I'm still very much humbled by music, and I'm a fan, and I play every note like it's the last note I'm gonna play. And I'm deeply connected to music, so when I play, it's like a conversation. You know, music really is a form of communication, and you just have to know what you want to say and how you're going to say it. These are the big differences between people that succeed or become heroes and people that kind of stay in that medium zone. These are the big differences. It's not so much hours of practice. Yes, but it's connecting the music naturally, you know what I mean? So that I know that's the long answer to that question, like train beat. But there, you know, it's to play a train beat authentically, you have to just know that style, like just know it. Not only know it, but love it. You know, and if you don't love it and you're just doing it because you're on the gig, it's not going to sound great. It's not going to sound how it should sound because there's inflection. Just like I'm talking to you now. I'm not talking like this, monotone, like your history teacher, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? I'm using accents. I'm using my speech is going like this. And that's how music is. Again, go back to this, you know. A lot of people get by, or what's the difference? Inflection. I mean, a stickler could go, well, you just played louder, you know, but that's, you just played louder. No, not really.
No, what's the drum machine?
It's, because I also played the space, by the way. I don't just play the note attacks. That gets me into a new thing I want to talk about is your groove playing. Play the space, not just the these other notes in between, and to make music feel right, to do an authentic reproduction, you have to play each note. And one thing that helps with that is subdividing. Especially at slower tempos. A lot of drummers don't get caught up in the time thing because they don't subdivide. I'm subdividing. So point to the middle of the room. Yeah, somewhere, right? It's like there, might be there. Okay, point to the middle of the drumstick. It's much easier to point to the middle of the drumstick because there's less space to manage. So when you're playing time, cut your subdivisions into shorter, manageable blocks, and you'll be more accurate. Now, I think a lot of drummers subdivide without knowing it, but I want you to know it and think about it consciously when you play. So if I'm here, I'm really thinking. You know what I mean? Subdivide. Even at faster tempos, I'm still subdividing. Allows you, because drumming really in popular music is a lot like target practice. You're aiming for the middle of every note. In order to really do that, you have to subdivide and kind of and know how much space to play. You know, and play the space on purpose. You know, I mean, really get into that. I always try to see how much space I can play between notes and songs, like before it's dragging. You know what I mean? Now, how many drummers do you guys play the clicks? Do you ever in your gigs? Okay, how's that going? Well, how do you feel about playing to a click?
Another way to play.
Yeah.
A question on that.
Yeah.
When I play, it's more of like not the true click, but
yeah, that's a true click. If it's digitally right, it's a click. That's, you know.
I feel like I can groove better with that, and then there's no issue with time because it's in my ears and I'm just.
It's subdividing for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas opposed to if it's just a click,
right.
and I don't feel like I can really groove as much.
What about? And I hear you. It depends to me. That's relative to tempo. He's saying that just a click sound doesn't give him enough. So he has a loop which has it subdivides for him, so he can it's easier to nail. But what about when you don't have a click or anything? You know what I mean? What about how do you feel? Do you feel like you miss that?
I feel more natural.
Yeah.
So like when I'm just playing with the click with just the ticks,
yeah.
my fills don't feel as like circular and flowing, they feel more rigid.
Yeah, well you feel like, because fills sort of naturally get ahead of you, you know what I mean? One thing you can do to practice that, if you have something you can program, so an 8-bar loop, say, you would do 4 bars of a reference click and then 4 bars of nothing, with the machine kind of still counting, and then do your fills in the 4 bars of nothing or resistance. You know, your sense of time is kind of like your sense. Here, I'm gonna put my ears back. Your sense of time is kind of like a muscle, and you need to exercise it in order for it to get better. And in order to exercise it, you have to do resistance. Just like you would, if I were a runner, I might run in the water for 10 minutes, and then I'd get out and I'd be on land, and I'd feel like lighter and faster. So your sense of time is the same thing. So you want to do things that make you really have to flex that. There isn't a whole lot of stuff for drummers on timekeeping. I mean, isn't that crazy? Like, there's all kinds of books on, like, you know, jazz and how to, like, play around the drums and patterns and all this stuff. It's great, but there isn't one really good tutorial on just what is keeping time. How do you practice that? And usually you get this kind of generic advice, like play to a metronome. That's kind of oversimplified. I mean, just playing to a metronome doesn't help you master time. So this is a great exercise for that. I'll try to mimic it. Let me see. So you would do like, let's see. Bear with me. Okay. So you practice. You do like 4 bars, and I'm gonna shut it on and off myself to give you the. But you'll program it. So 4 bars of click. Too loud?
Yeah.
Sorry. How's that? Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You'd come in, it would come in, I wouldn't be doing it. And then you would start to take inventory. Whoa, am I rushing? What am I dragging? Then slow the tempo down. So then you're gonna make your room bigger. Slow it down to like, that was 120. I would go incrementally, but then make your reference go down to 80. Then we come in, do fills, then go down to 40. That's a nightmare. 40. And I'm not subdividing my click, so. And it'll turn off. And then now it'll be counting. You see what I'm saying? You see how this becomes like, really hard. And then fills. Man, it will iron all that out. You will learn to develop patience in your fill. You'll be able to play your fills just like you do your time. You'll find that muscle flexing. And then when you go back to normal tempos, or when you play without the click, you'll find like the quarter note is just more with you. You know what I'm saying? So this is a great exercise for that kind of thing. Let me check our time. Everybody with me so far on that?
Do you find that's a good secret for like break recording? And then you also mentioned one of your YouTube videos that in Nashville, a lot of the recording drummers aren't the touring drummers.
Yes.
It worked out well with that.
Yeah, I got lucky. I'm the touring and
Why
the
is
studio.
that? And what thing? Could you talk to us a little bit more about what the Nashville seems like?
Yeah. So I might get back to this, another exercise you can do for stretching your sense of time. Why is there a rift between touring and studio? So a lot of it has to do with how fast they record. Like playing in the studio isn't so much here. It's here. It's mastering your emotions, because you have to basically wake up. That they don't rehearse to make records. They rehearse to make tours. So there's a distinction right there. I guess they think that any old guy can practice a song long enough in a show and they'll get it. Well, it's a different skill set to wake up, have your coffee, go in there, hear a song, one time, and that's probably just them doing it. That's how it's done. Every record you hear, Taylor Swift, Al Dean, all these guys, whatever it is, those records go out so fast. They record 3 or 4 songs a day, you know what I mean? It's done in 15 minutes, and most of the players never heard the song in their life. So that's a different skill. So when you go into the studio, again, it goes back to being the fan. You have to have with you this bank of knowledge. So when you hear something, you're like, okay, yeah, that's like this. Oh, I know that. Yeah, I can do my. When I go in, I hear 20 different options. That's my problem. I can't even hear just when they give me an acoustic guitar and she's singing or whatever. I hear so many ways it can be done, I can't sort out which one to do, you know what I mean? But most guys that are just average Joes that can learn something don't have that kind of musical database to tap from. You see what I'm saying? So that's one of the things that causes that that sort of that separation. But it's also kind of hype too, because there are a lot of guys that can play. You know, the thing about playing in the studio is I don't think anybody's really born studio player. You adapt to the environment you're thrown into. So Eddie Bears was kind of like that. You know, Eddie Bears plays on everything, for those of you who know. He's one of the top, you know, at one time there were 3 top guys and he was one of them, and every song you heard coming out of Nashville was Eddie Bears for a long, long time. He wasn't a naturally born drummer. He just got thrown in there, and he did what he had to do. He learned the skills to survive. You can't really practice for the studio because it's so, everything goes out the window when you go red. When they go, okay, we're rolling. You're on instinct, man. Whatever you know before that moment comes out naturally. So it's scary. But now I've done enough of it and I get it now. So it's just like something you do over and over, you get better at it. That's the studio thing. There aren't really any secrets. Yeah.
So for somebody who's an aspiring drummer who moves to Nashville, is it a different path to try to be a touring drummer than a studio, or do you just take whatever you can get?
You take whatever you can get. Yeah, of course. And you know why you take whatever you can get? Because it doesn't matter, because it's not about making it per se. What for me it was about, I love drumming. I'll do it anywhere, at any level. I'll wash dishes, as long as there's 365 days a year. How many of those days can I play? That's all I thought about. I wasn't like, I gotta make it. You know what I mean? I wanted that, I worked towards it, but I didn't make my happiness contingent upon that, like some people do. You know, you see that like on American Idol. Girl gets up there, Steve Tyler goes, and she's like, woo, 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 you know what I mean? I'm like, that's just not, happiness isn't a contract that you make that you go, okay, I'm gonna be miserable, I'm gonna be mad until I get some success. Really? You're just gonna be mad the whole time until you get that needle in the haystack. Then you'll be happy. When someone brings you up to the big time, you can't live like that, folks. You know what I mean? You gotta do it because you love it, and you're successful because you're doing it and enjoy the process. And the rest should follow. I will say this though, if you really want to try to make a run at it, you gotta move.
Yeah.
You want to make a run at the big time, you got to move where the big time is. It's not coming to you. It doesn't come to small town. There's no talent scouts. Your band can't be in a bar and be discovered. It can't happen. It doesn't happen that way anymore. You got to go out. You got to go where it is and do it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How long does it usually take someone to really break out in Nashville?
See, that question has your urgency lined in it. It could be, here's the thing, I mean, honestly, there's no average. You could get there and meet people, in a month, you could be killing it, you know? It took me 6 years just to start at the bottom level with Brad. I mean, I was there 6 years before I met Brad. Remember, when I met Brad Paisley, he wasn't Brad Paisley. We were doing, our first gig was like a room half this size in Amarillo, Texas. And they were all like, what is this? I mean, you know what I mean? They're throwing bottles at us. You know, it was, but I was still happy to be there because I was like, I don't care. Yeah, we're low level. Great. You know, I just make my needs simple, man. My needs are to play and to play like it's the last time I'm gonna play, and then everything else will follow. I feel like, you know, that's the best formula, you know.
So
yeah.
your Berklee education didn't really put you any higher up?
Not even a little bit. As a matter of fact, I had to undo my Berklee education. Undo it to survive. But I will say that, what's that?
How so?
I'll tell you. But before, let me clarify that. There's a part of it that was very helpful, and that's the anything non-drumming. We learned harmony and notation and music theory and chord movement, and I learned everything about music that had nothing to do with drums. That stuff helped me. Because when I'm reading charts, I know what a 6 minor is. I know what a 2 major is. I know what these chords are. And I know their tonalities, and it tells me what to play. So that was very valuable. But drumming-wise, how so? All right. At the time, now keep in mind, this was late 80s. So I don't know what it's like now, so I'm not just gonna go, Berklee is this, because I kind of don't know. It's different now. But, so I can only tell you the experience I had. And for better or worse, let me say a couple other good things about it. It was a community where I was with people that were like me, and I learned from my friends, and I didn't have to be out in the real world. You know, I had my student loans, and I was there, and I was able to work and have the time to learn to do whatever. But as far as the curriculum, it was a very cookie cutter approach to teaching. So they have 400 drummers. There's a program here, Ben. Meanwhile, you have these guys who are coming out, like Weckel was a new kind of guy, and you had all these great drummers, and they're giving me these dittos, these little, here's your work for the semester, and you would learn it, and then they would give you a grade, but there was such a disconnect. Like, no, yeah, that's good. How do you become great? Why do I not play like this guy? What's the difference? We're humans, our physicality is the same. Why, you know, our movements are, I have the same IQ most likely. Why is he great and I'm not? That's the question, you know, and that's the question I've been in search of. And no one there could show me that, you know what I mean? I didn't find a mentor. I found guys who were just like, next. You know, there's a certain amount of wisdom that you need as a teacher to teach. So that was my thing. I really wanted to be good, and I wanted help. I didn't get help. I was kind of on my own. You know what I mean? And so I'm still figuring it out. I mean, to this day, I go home and I practice, and I figure out what's wrong, what's right. You know, I just work. I could just sit home and collect a check and go on vacation, but I don't. You know, so it's just that kind of commitment. You know, I love it regardless of the level I'm at. But I try to be honest about Berklee. I don't have nothing. It is a great place. I don't even say not to go there, but try to find a mentor, whether it's a friend, and try to figure out what it is you know and don't know. There's a lot of this type of thing. Well, you should know jazz, or you should know. All my students, well, what do you want to learn? Well, I want to learn the Latin, I want to learn the jazz, and all these other things. I'm like, well, why? Why do you want to learn? Well, I feel like I should know that. Well, yes and no. You should know it if that's the music that's raging through your veins. You know, not, you know, if you love that music, then you should know it. But again, knowing it isn't going to help you if you don't love it. I didn't feel compelled to do jazz at Berklee, even though it was everywhere. I thought it was cool. I was like, man, I'd love to be able to play like that. But the music itself, I just couldn't sit there in the listening room all day and listen to it. You know what I mean? So I didn't want it bad enough. But now that I'm an adult, I understand more the language they're speaking. What's that?
Get out to Nashville.
What got me to Nashville? A buddy of mine. We had a band. We just it kind of dissolved in Boston, and we went home for a summer. We both lived in Jersey, and we saved up some money. We threw all our stuff in a car and went.
What was that like out there?
What's that?
What was that like, the Nashville scene?
It was cool. We started our band. We were on the. We were happy. We were goofing around. We had a cool band. Keith Urban was a big friend of ours at the time when he moved to town. He had a band called The Ranch, and we used to do double gigs. I mean, this is a bar like the size of a third of this room. Tiny, tiny place. You know, he'd bring the PA, we'd bring the drums. We all didn't know where his thing went. So I mean, it was cool. Yeah.
When you're just hanging out, how do you hear about it?
How do you hear about it?
After that, like, how did the auditions? When you met Brad, what was it?
Right. How did I even do it, right?
Yeah, say like with someone like Easton Corbin.
What's that?
Say like Easton Corbin.
Okay.
A couple singles.
Yeah.
Already an artist, but like we need to do drummer.
Yeah.
How does that audition usually like?
It's still a circular thing. In other words, there's a circle of people that Easton has influencing him, and it's whoever's in those guys' heads at the time. That's the thing. You still have to kind of be in the loop of people to call. It's not that hard of a loop to get into because Nashville is still kind of a small town. But here, I'll tell you how I did it. And this is another lesson. If you don't mind me telling this story, there's a lesson in this. There's a lot of advice, and there's guys that are my peers that go out and do clinics, and they tell you, they're like, man, you come to Nashville, you gotta network. You gotta network, and you gotta like go up to everybody, be like, hey man, hey, you gotta be friends with everybody, be all. Well, I think that's fine and good if that's a natural skill you have. I don't have that skill. I like persons, individuals, but the world at large, I can't be everybody's friend. You know what I mean? I can't do the whole this, whatever that is. So I'm terrible at that. So that's not good advice. And you need to know what your gifts are. And if your gifts aren't networking, then this is my advice. Go out and just be kind to everyone, and don't try to pick and choose who might help you because of where they are, or maybe, oh, there's so and so, I should go sidle up to him, or maybe introduce myself, and maybe that'll get me into the loop. It kind of doesn't work that way. For me, it started with one person, one singular person, and this was a girl who was a fan of my band that I told you about. And she would come every Tuesday. She was a fan. She liked the music. We hung out. Totally. This is a girl that all the networkers would never talk to. You wouldn't talk to her because she wasn't particularly like a hip kind of chick. She doesn't seem like the kind of person that would help you in music. She's very unassuming. Well, I thought she was great. And I talked to her. We just had this natural thing, and she ended up being a receptionist at one of the record labels. And she heard of an audition, and I was kind to her, and I was in her loop because we hit it off naturally. And she put in a call, and this was the guy that ended up managing Brad. And I played with another one of his artists, and he called me. I was first called. And again, it was nothing at the time, but I was in his mind. And I didn't have to do any, hey, it wasn't. I'm terrible at that. But what I am good at is just the natural approach to, you know, why are some people your friends and why are some people not? Some people you're just so close to, and others they're acquaintances. You know, I don't try to fight that. You know, but what I can do is kind of be fake, like, hey, you know, hi. You know, I'm terrible at that. But some people are good at that. And if you know you're good at that, you're sociable, and man, do it. You know.
mentioned in one of your YouTube videos that even when you got a record deal, you were still playing little shows and working your way towards.
Dude, a record deal means nothing.
Right.
Record deal's like, oh, welcome to the beginning of struggling.
Right.
Record deal is not an elevator or a catapult.
What did they even really do for you?
What's that?
What did they even really do for you?
Oh, well, I don't know now. I mean, at the time, they sold records. You put out radio singles. So that's what it is. The radio singles, if it's a good song, the people latch on to it. Brad had a couple, he's a good songwriter, you know what I mean? He knows how to write. He's had some that I don't particularly love, but for the most part, he's a great songwriter.
And he would go visit the radio station.
Oh, go visit them, and he knows he's good at like talking to people, and he just is. He's not this grip and grin guy at all, but his genuine character is very charming, and he's different. You know, people like Brad because he's genuinely likable, and he's smart, and he really. Some people get success. It's like a happy accident. They don't even know why. They're hardly sober, and they still. So Brad wouldn't have succeeded that way. He has engineered like chess his whole thing. He worked so hard to stay relevant. He didn't have an easy shoot up. You know,
you said you were playing beer gardens.
Oh, beer gardens, all that stuff. Yeah. I mean, you know,
which is cool though.
It's fine. It's fine. I'd do it again. You know, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Yeah. So, any other questions about that or anything? Okay. So, let me talk back a little bit about the time thing we were talking about, getting the time muscles. So another thing I like to do is to stretch time purposefully. You know, when you're playing a groove, there is a margin of error. You ever hear about burying the click and guys that bury the click, they play right on top of it, and dude, I mean, it's kind of like not necessary to, if this is your margin of error, if this is perfect, you kind of come in and out of it. Better play, yeah, you're burying it for a second, and then you kind of do this. It's kind of like driving the car. When you drive down the highway, do you hold the wheel straight like this? No, you would end up in a ditch, right? So to drive, you do this, and then somehow it goes straight. So that's kind of what it is when you're driving a van. So to increase the resistance of my time awareness, I like to play on different sides of the click on purpose. Matter of fact, I like to play completely off of the click, because when I play off of it, it teaches me how to play on better. So let me give you an example. Take flams. So flams can be played kind of like one of three ways. So like really tight, right? And then kind of looser, a little looser, like, and then like really loose. So you can also do that with the click. Let me give you this. Hear that?